Welcome back. Two former Loveland police officers have turned themselves in to face criminal charges nearly a year after the violent arrest of Karen Garner. Austin Hopp is accused of using excessive force while taking the 73-year-old woman with dementia into custody. Daria Jalali is charged with misconduct and failing to report her partner's excessive use of force. Newly released court documents show the officers who allegedly dislocated Garner's shoulder and broke her arm knew about her injuries and knew it would be bad if people found out. To talk more about this case, our 9 News legal expert and MSU Denver professor Whitney Traylor joins us now. Hey, Whitney, good morning.
Good morning, Natasha. Good morning, everyone.
So I want to start with these criminal charges. Can you explain the charges and what the potential penalties are?
Yeah, these charges, it's interesting. So the initial one, the former officer Austin Hopp, he was charged with a felony, class 3 felony assault for causing serious bodily injury. But interestingly, he was also charged with an attempt to influence an officer. But what he did, or what the basis for that charge is that when he filed his report, he made substantial omissions, essentially attempting to recreate a narrative. And they claim that when she asked for medical assistance, Karen Garner, that she didn't respond. And the video shows that she was complaining about her shoulder over 20 times. And in the original report, he didn't even mention an injury. He said there were no injuries, and it now appears that they did actually know, because that shoulder was dislocated and completely it looked very out of place. So those are the charges, and interestingly, these come under the new police accountability laws as well. So that's going to come into play as well as in terms of the penalties.
Well, the former officers have also been sued in federal court on civil claims. The department is also being investigated. What do you expect will come from these separate cases?
Right. So a civil lawsuit has already been filed, and that's been filed under 42 USC 1983, which is a statute that says when somebody's acting under the color of state law, so a police officer in his official capacity violates a constitutional right, that's a civil violation. So they've asserted those violations and violations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And in addition to that, the city's HR department is conducting its own internal investigation, and then there's separate investigations by the U.S. Attorney General for Colorado and the FBI, and these are similar to the investigations, for example, into the Minneapolis police that are being conducted by the Department of Justice. So it's a separate body that's coming in to investigate, and more charges can come after those investigations are concluded.
Whitney, something you brought up that I wanted to revisit, and you mentioned that this is going to be one of the first cases in the state involving Colorado's new police accountability law. Can you tell us how this new law will work in the case?
Right. This is going to be super interesting. And this is a case of really one of the first cases. The arrest of Karen Garner that led to all of this, that happened 1 week after the police accountability was signed into law. So if they are convicted, these police officers or former officers, they will be prevented from ever having their peace officer certification in Colorado ever. And so what's interesting is that this is one of the first times we're going to see a potential liability for an officer for failing to intervene. And that's the police accountability bill. And so they can also be liable individually, these former officers, for up to $25,000 or 5% of any civil judgment, whichever is less. So this is a case really of first impression, and it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. And I would suspect there could be appeals, and so it'll be a long time before it gets sorted out. But we'll see how the law works.
We've had so many conversations recently around police and policing. And after seeing this video, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is a systemic issue, or are these isolated incidents?
It's a great question, and police and policing are completely under the microscope right now, understandably, and people are trying to figure out, hey, is this systemic issues? And here you have to wonder, because had the video not come out, which was just released in April of this year, I don't know what would have happened. The report appears to be inaccurate, as it didn't identify any injuries and things like that. The DA and assistant DA under the previous administration had actually watched the video and apparently didn't, obviously didn't make a charge. So some would say, look, this is systemic because without the video, this would have been, par for the course. Now, other people are saying, look, police officers are constantly in very dangerous situations. They escalate quickly, and we as civilians don't always see how quickly things can escalate. And that's why they're trained to, get people into submissive and get them in the handcuffs and things like that. But here, none of those elements appeared to be present. There from the video, it did not appear that anyone was in danger, certainly not the officer when, Karen Gardner, it was somewhat obvious that she was discombobulated. She only weighed 120 pounds. It really looked like the only danger was her being close to a road and possibly getting hit by a car. So I think some people are saying this was terrible judgment by this individual. There was just no need to escalate so quickly in that circumstance. And this really kind of brings the conversation back, I think, to the notion of training. And that's what a lot of, police reform advocates are saying is that there's just not enough training. On the other hand, people are saying you didn't need training in this instance. When you saw that she was discombobulated, it wasn't a dangerous situation. The level of force was escalated so quickly and so excessively. That's what the argument will be, and that's what these criminal and civil charges uh, revolve around. So I think those officers have a real uphill battle in terms of their defense.
Well, you make great points, Whitney. Appreciate you coming on the show and breaking this case down. Thank you.